Post, Monday, January 29, 1996. Front page, subtitle, Reality Check. Politics of Mistrust. Who's in control? Many don't know or care. Knowledge gap affects attitudes and participation. And it suggests that, however, it says whether uninterested, uninformed, or simply ignorant. Millions of Americans cannot answer even basic questions about American politics, according to a new survey by the Washington Post, whose Catherine Graham is one of the chief donors. He's in the highest donor bracket in the back of the Council on Foreign Relations. You need a chair, brother?
No, I'm all right.
Okay, and then it says the Kaiser family, and the Kaiser family was on the original Carl Kaiser Sr., Carl Kaiser Jr., who put out Kaiser Aluminum. You ever heard of them? They're out of Oakland. They started the Adopt-A School projects in the 70s. Sent Ruth Love out of Oakland into Chicago. That's how I got familiar with her. But the Kaiser family were founding members of the Trilateral Commission and deep funders into the Council on Foreign Relations. So what I'm suggesting is that the survey, the thermometer up the ass of what do the people really know, was done by people who are known perpetrators and supporters of the organizations and the institutions that we know are anti-black. That's the point I want to make. Pardon me?
Harvard University.
Yeah, I think that's the next part comes up to Harvard. Washington Post, Kaiser family, and Harvard University. Boy, we got good people out here, don't we, Pat? You can't forget a line in this industry. And Harvard. Harvard being the epitome of white academia. Now,
Eastern Excerpt.
Right. And just a little sidebar to that Harvard. Boy, in Florida, we read deep New Boule stuff. I mean, I got the New Boule history book, but I got the minutes of all of the regional meetings, the minutes. I got every journal all the way back to 1991. Those of you who came to the convention, this is the new head of the Boule, Hargrove Wooten. But I had something I tabbed here, because a Boule member, I don't usually mention his name in the public, but he heads the W.E.B. Du Bois Research Center on African American something at Harvard. What's his name?
Louis Gates.
There we go, Bob. Henry Louis Gates. And I just wanted to show him up here, since we know him so well, show his face and him standing here making some commentary. And we got deep Boule shit. I mean, we got deep Boule shit. I'm gonna tell you about Florida. Oh man, yeah, really, that pissed me off. You know, I just left Florida A&M, and Brother Jabari. I was in Wichita this last weekend, Wichita, Kansas, supposedly hosted by the Million Man March Committee, who first tricked the brothers into taking me off of the 1,000-man march last weekend speech and pushing me off to this weekend, and then failing to put up any money or anything else to make it come about before the 2-3 brothers just got together and said, fuck it, we'll pay for everything ourselves. They bought the plane ticket, paid for the hotel, put down $400 base, which was less than I was supposed to get. It was like, take the $400 or we can't do it. Then we passed the hat. The first night we passed the hat, the Million Man March people who didn't support us took the hat basket right on out the room, and 3 people that my guys never even met was back there counting my little $244, if that's what it was. And every newspaper in Kansas calling me there with the Million Man March Committee, but they flubbed. But we did it anyway. But boy, when it went good, everybody's chest was all over the place by how hard they worked to bring it about. And it was bullshit. Anyway, I'll put that tape out. Here's Gates here. One of the pictures of Gates is a better picture here. You all will remember this is those of you at the convention, Wilder and all of them, standing there posing that for picture. I think we even got that on the camera. They were standing in the front on the banquet thing. Here's Gates right here. They're announcing the Charles Harris Wesley Fund. Henry Louis Gates announces the Porter Wesley Fund. Gates is doing something at Harvard for Charles Wesley, who wrote the history book of Sigma Pi Phi and the history book of Alpha Phi Alpha. And we really love page 18 of the history book of Alpha Phi Alpha, because it's in that book that says that college fraternities can be traced to a corpse of German universities and to the Middle Ages. And that's very important for us in looking at the round table, University of England stock, the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, and all of that. And then here is the picture of Henry Louis Gates with Charles Wesley's wife, who I think Brother Charles called me and said that last week, 2 weeks ago, Charles Wesley's wife died, and had a huge, what did you call me? She had a huge eulogy in the Post, talking about all of her. It was something unique about her, though, you was telling me about.
She got all the paperwork and everything.
Right. A Hebrew once went to her house to try to get the ritual book. He found out where she lived, and he said she wouldn't give it to him. I don't know if he actually went or not. He had suggested it, but there he is with Mrs. Wesley, and then just 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Wesley died, and she had a huge profile in the obituary of the Washington Post. I highly recommend that you Africans read the obituary here, because the obituary here contains the names of all foreign intelligence officers when they die. And what you're looking for is when they say, and between 67 and 82 he was in Africa. Between 47 and 51 he was in Africa. He was in, between 61 and 69 he was in Jamaica. You want to then clip them. Not because you know what they did, but when you get up on somebody and you are running names and you fucking their head up about shit you know they don't think you know, you say, well, what about Abraham Astrarovich? He said he was your case officer, economic attaché over there in the Nigerian embassy, who was the CIA man. And he said, oh, you know Astrarovich? Yeah, I know all about it. These are your people. Military men named the top intelligence posts. Clinton administration proposed yesterday to appoint 2 senior military intelligence officials to supervise all U.S. eavesdropping on foreign governments and citizens, and much of its spying related to military operations and requirements. Secretary of Defense William Perry announced that Air Force Lieutenant General Kenneth Millingham, M-I-N-I, M-I-N-H-A-N, has been nominated to run the National Security Agency, which is responsible for providing U.S. officials with a steady stream of intercepted electronic data. Don't forget to take The Devil Lives in D.C. that we did right here. And when I asked the audience, did anybody know anybody who worked for the National Security Agency, the cameraman hollered out, my wife. And he probably assumed that I must have asked because I knew the answer and was going to see if he was honest. That's why I was telling you about you throw shit out there sometimes and shit get to happen. But I didn't know that. I would never have thought his wife was a cryptologist at the National Security Agency. But he said it. But he can't be cameraman no more because when Brother Charles was reviewing the tape, he cut that part out. So you hear me say on the tape, you get the audio, it's in there, but in the video it's gone. I did the audio. And it's uncensored. Even if I say something stupid about myself, it's on there. I never go back and take anything out. I've never touched one of these tapes ever. But, I mean, even when the lecture's over, sometimes I say, you know that big old thing, he ain't shit. And I listen to the tape, and it's at the end, the lecture's over, I'm up talking to somebody, and I'm telling you this thing all in your tape. And you say, yeah, man, the best part is when you be talking when you think the tape is off.
Watch CNN when they be doing stuff and the stuff ends, they keep the camera rolling. So there was this sister that sponsored something that had Jesse Jackson on it. She was giving them the blues at the end, you know, off camera.
They thought it was off.
It was off. That shit went right across.
Right off, yeah. I know that Bobby Batista and that guy and that lady, they do a lot of goofy stuff. The camera fell in their face the other day, and they was ditching and they was, hey, it's right in our face, you all don't know. You can see the camera start pulling up a shot over them. Anyway, a lot of crazy stuff happens on live TV, and all the animals are jumping in it. Here comes GE with Microsoft, that's interesting, as Rockefeller, the sidebar. Remember we talked about how Gates coming in with the new establishment? Well, Gates' ass must have given in because he got with General Electric and NBC to do an all-news service with them. Then he gets up and goes to the United Negro College Fund and gives the largest donation in the history of the United Negro College Fund. Now, let's go back to bridges and boundaries, assimilations of Jewish elites and black elites, 1910 to 1930. When the Jewish boys wanted to get in with the white boys, what did they have to do? Roosevelt had to start putting up money to do what the Pew Foundation was doing, the Carnegie Foundation was doing, and the General Education Board was doing, which were the Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Pew family funds were making a Negro. So they made the Jewish people have to make a Negro. Then when they wanted to make Japan get in the New World Order, they said, Japan, you have to pay some of the bill for the New World Order. So they make Japan give away. Who gives money to NAACP? Come on now. Who gave the biggest donation Quaker got? Nissan. Come on now. Nissan. When the Mitsubishi $100,000? The biggest donation Kwesi and Fume got. Did you now line to tell me, is there something else? Is there some other company? Y'all don't know. We don't know. Okay, well, Kwesi and Fume's largest donation he received, he came out big time public, 100,000, a part of a 250,000 something they gonna come up with. Anyway, the point to that is that they make them all foot the bill, and now we're watching other people have to foot the bill to come into the game. And anyway, I started that with Gates and Wesley and them. And another name in here. Milham has been deputy director, has been director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, which does most of the street spying. The next name in here, the nominee to fill Milham's position at the DIA was Army Major General Pat Hughes, who has run intelligence operations for the Joint Chiefs of Staff since August of '94, posting in Vietnam, Japan, Korea, the Florida headquarters of the Central Command with responsibility for collecting intelligence on the Middle East. Hughes, 53, has worked closely with Perry, CIA Director John Deutsch. Remember, Deutsch is a trilateral commissioner in setting up U.S. intelligence operations in Bosnia, drawing praise from the Pentagon for streamlining the transfer of intelligence from Washington to U.S. forces. Something here I'm missing that's really important? Okay. Now, and just wanted to make a note of Gates. And I finished Crystal Nick's part here. I want to finish that. Now, let's go back to the council. We know the council is ugly on Africa, and that's part of what we wanted to show how ugly Africa. Little sidebar. There was a big political meeting here this weekend. I think it was hosted by Eddie Williams. Big political meeting. Joint Center was at one of them hotels. Just remember that's the head of the local boule. I'm going to start putting more direct pressure on the local Washington, D.C. boule and also on the president of Howard. I'm going to be looking for contributions on the Howard President Boule project because when I was in Florida A&M, I saw how threatened the president, Humphreys was. Humphreys is a nationally renowned, historically black college president. How frightened he was when I was coming with the Boule list, and now 9 of the top administrators at Florida A&M were Boule. But what was deepest was that after I finished the lecture, when them other professors came up to me and said, Steve, we can't get promoted on our campus. We can't get tenure. We don't get any of the key grants or sabbaticals because we're non-Boule types. On this campus, only the Bushies get the job. We, the professors who are concerned about teaching and are always over the line for telling too much, we're never respected. We want to back up your program here in Tallahassee. That was important because that meant that it was not just the students that fight over the question of the establishment, but even on the teacher level, there's resentment and insight. That's very important. We know again that the council started in those early 1900 days, and that it was that extension of that secret society between the Rhodes and the Rothschild boys. We've talked about them 8 million times in the past. This from the book that is possibly the best book on the council ever, The Imperial Grain Trust, is discussing back into the beginning of the council forming, and we know around that is the word roundtable group. And that's very important for us as Africans because we know it was through that word roundtable that we brought in the Boule. How did the Boule connect to white people? We affirmed it through the connection between Charles Wesley, Alfred Lord Tennyson, the Boule, and the Rhodes Rothschild Secret Society. That it was money left by Cecil Rhodes and William Steed. And the money for the organization's work came originally from the Rhodes Trust. That the money left by the white supremacist diamond magnate, Cecil Rhodes. Now it's interesting that Farrakhan has been compelled to endorse the Mandela South African program. And I want to make a note of that. If a Farrakhan leadership was like Mandela's leadership, and this bottom line remained the same, I ain't going to wait for it to say I don't want it. Washington Post, November 18th, 93. The most difficult challenge confronting negotiators was drawing a blueprint for a democratic government in a society where blacks make up 75% of the population, but whites own 98% of the wealth. That's the Mandela solution. Every city I've gone in, I've asked the people. I'd really like to thank those of you who headed your anti-apartheid movements here in the past. Raise your hands. Interesting enough in Wichita, they never ever had an anti-apartheid committee, never had an anti-apartheid meeting. They say anti-apartheid wasn't even a story. Even when they was boycotting South Africa, it never got to Wichita. The dude who founded the Cato Institute, C-A-T-O, he runs Wichita, Cox, K-O-C-H, white guy, who founded the Cato Institute, which is big here in D.C., a right-wing think tank, but more militaristic thinking, like Iran Corporation type. Big here, he runs Wichita, and 2 weeks before I was in Wichita, Newt Gingrich had been there. Now this is Wichita, Kansas, this is Bob Dole country, but Gingrich had his ass up in there. And then when they had the Million Man March committee rallying and shit, they let the mayor of Wichita, white boy, who had never given up a penny for the march, never spoke in behalf of the march, had the program chaired by the NAACP guy who was against the march and hosted by the mayor who never came out for the march. So I set him up. I said, boy, before you know it, some mayor will be trying to get on the Million Man March program and never even did shit to bring it about. Everybody went, oh. As of course that was right, because I had been free briefed, so I said all of the things that they knew was no good and said, this will never happen here. And then they all said it already happened, and we already knew that. But that was important. So then, for the redistricting council, page 12 and 13, the roundtable groups kept in touch by business and correspondence and published beginning in 1910 the magazine The Round Table, whose anonymous contributors and even an anonymous editorial board. You can go to the library and look at them. They're in the libraries. The Round Table magazines from the Royal Institute for International Affairs in England. This is the English version of Foreign Affairs. But they stayed anonymous. There have only been 4 chairmen of the Council on Foreign Relations in its history. Since it started in 1921, as they list their directors, they only had 4 chairmen ever. Can anybody name 2 of them?
Armstrong, Fish.
No, Fish was a board of director member. Fish was editor of this magazine from 1920 to 1972. Fish was a 90-year-old congressman married a 30-year-old white woman. He's been hanging a long time. How many of them Fish Armstrong?
One everybody should know, David Rockefeller.
David Rockefeller, that's one of them. Who else? Pete Peterson, that's the present chairman, 2. Who's the guy we talked about was on the Warren Commission?
McCoy.
John McCoy, who was head of the Ford Foundation, chairman of the council, and on the Warren Commission at the time of Kennedy's death, and was responsible for training David Rockefeller into the chairmanship. And let's see, who else? The first one, right. Chairman of the board, Russell Liffingwell, L-E-F-F-I-N-G-W-E-L-L. That's a Carnegie man. John McCloy, David Rockefeller, and Peter G. Peterson. And there have only been 3 blacks in the history of the council. They have a list here with all of the board of directors who ever been members, and the year they became a director and the year they went off. And in here, if you look at that list, it's a definitive list of who all has ever been a director of the Council on Foreign Relations. There have never been but 3 people, directors that were black. Donald McHenry, followed by a stripe, Clifton Wartime became the first black male. Donald McHenry became the second, and Charlene Hunter Galt is the present one and only black on the board. Now this name here I think might be a black man, but I'm not sure. Oh, thanks, Bob. This name here, Franklin Hall Williams. I believe when we were in New York, we saw this Franklin Hall Williams. He was an ambassador to a Latin American country. I believe he's a black man. I'm not sure. I want you to register that name, Franklin Hall Williams, 75 to 83. Clifton Wartime, 83 to 92. Donald McHenry, 84 to 93. Charlene Hunter Galt, 92 still. Now, it says that only the board of directors can approve someone for membership. The nominating committee suggests them. Now, the reason I bring that up is Jesse Jackson's vagueness about whether he was a member or not is really bullshit when you consider that one of the most powerful men in the world has to approve of your membership specifically. And that they can only take 90 members a year. So it ain't like everybody got a shot. And they got term membership. I come on who are over the age of 31 or 33. You can't be under 31. That's some shit I never knew. Never knew the age specs on it. So I was kind of intrigued by that. And that's a detail we'll get even more into the second part. They have a Franklin Williams scholarship fund too. It's always interesting. Some of the names in here, the sponsorships and others. Some of the black names on the council. I'm going to play a little tape for you in a minute to relay those names. The point of this post article I wanted to just end with, keep on going quickly, is that it says the least you know about an issue, the harder it is to get you to negotiate a conclusion. Therefore, we have a group of people who we never educated, and now we may have to educate them because we want to get them to agree to the world order. It says when voters can only follow politics through their heroes and villains, they do not have knowledge about the underlying conditions like the cost of Medicaid. It makes compromise much harder for politicians. It takes a lot of knowledge to know when compromise is needed as opposed to fighting for the last inch. See, they're looking up at them whites, and they know that these whites are crystallizing against the rich. And they know they're suggesting that these whites that are crystallizing against the rich are ignorant. And their ignorance makes them compelling into conspiracy theories and shallow thought contemplation. Therefore, when we cut this world deal and force them into these circumstances, they're not going to understand it and they're not going to go along. So I want you to understand this in the context of that other one we talked about in the Oklahoma bombing, one world conspiracies prompt Montana militias called to arms. That the suggestion that those who were in the one world were more than likely to be the ones to jump out and to fight at you. Anyway, I was in Kansas, a little sidebar. Look at this story. Militiamen had floor plans for a prisoner center. Found out that there's a group of militia boys. Now, you know, they had the militia boys at the Vegas IRS, the bomb that they busted before it went off. Then there was the bomb went off, they thought went off on the ATF worker, but it was the priest across the street. Okay? Another Union bomber, Oklahoma bombing, sons of Gestapo in the Arizona desert on the Amtrak train. These militia boys had the transfer center for federal prisoners in Kansas, a big transfer center because you got Fort Leavenworth and all that, where the federal prisoners, how you send them across the country. They was going to blow it up. They had plans to blow it up and stuff, which was a spot that McVeigh and other boys were supposed to be coming through. And they suggest they might have tried to work a prison break. Also, notice the stories that the whites had. I saw whites on some show, I can't remember, talking about the 3 prison riots that went on at the time in the Million Man March. What? They make it, I don't know whether it was McLaughlin or one of these discussion shows were talking about the importance of being able to control the incarcerated at a time of social upheaval. And I was real interested in their suggestion about that. More theories than answers on lack of political knowledge. And it goes through a whole question of asking people questions. Can you tell me the name of the current Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court? Only 6% can answer correctly. And that's just an interesting circumstance that the whites find themselves in, having miseducated all of these other whites for all of those years. One little sidebar, and I brought these to give them back to Brother Hansel, but we've been talking about that stuff, about them 9 squares and stuff, and how the boule hooked with the council, and we know that the boule hooked with the council. We was up in here talking about Yale that night, and we was talking about how the boule hooked with the council, and how all of that hooked the blacks and the whites together, and then we looked. Remember that as Samuel Huntington's famous position paper before the class of civilizations. He went with that one, and I just wanted to introduce his name on that record again. And that got it, cuz? On that picture, but that we had hooked. Remember this story here, From Satan to the Sphinx, the Masonic mysteries of the DC map. And that information that we talked about in that lecture that day over there at the Eastern Market. And part of that was that connection about how all of these societies and others all hooked together. And back in here on that book, on the America's Secret Establishment, an introduction into the Order of Skull and Bones. As it goes back to talk about those secret societies and the Jesuits, and we know the Jesuits had a big influence on Cecil Rhodes and Ruskin and others. Remember, it goes back to the German origins. This is about Skull and Bones, though, about how they were at the University of Ingolstadt for Illuminati, and how the charter of Skull and Bones came out of the University of Ingolstadt in Germany. And I want to remind you about how this hooks with John Hopkins. That's an under-discussed topic that we got to get more into, and how Adam Weishaupt started the Order of the Illuminati on May 1st of 1776, and Weishaupt also used the structure of the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, as his model, and rewrote his code in Masonic terms. Ayddelotte continues. It's in a book he wrote on Cecil Rhodes. Says in 1988, it's striking, 1888, Rhodes made his third will, leaving everything to Lord Rothschild, his financier and mining enterprise, with an accompanying letter enclosing the written matter discussed between us. This surmises consisted of the first will and the confession of faith. It goes on to talk about how Lord Rothschild, through his relative Lord Rosebery, his father-in-law, Rosebery was the son-in-law of Rothschild, was made a trustee under the Rhodes Trust. And then it was Carroll Quigley who then pointed them in as a secret society. This is from the Rockefeller files. Strike, none that call it conspiracy. And how that led into the circle within a circle, secret society. In 1891 of March. The secret society was established by March 1891 using Rhodes money. The organization was run for Rothschild by Lord Alfred Milner, discussed in the last chapter as the key financier of the Bolshevik Revolution. The Round Table worked behind the scenes at the highest levels of the British government, influencing foreign policy and England's involvement in conduct in World War I. It says that Lionel Curtis established in England. At the end of 1914, it became clear that the organization of this system, the Round Table Group, had to be greatly extended. Once again, task was entrusted to Lionel Curtis, who you can get a good profile of in Tragedy and Hope, who established in England and each dominion a front organization to the existing Round Table Group. In each dominion, a front organization. This front organization, called the Royal Institute of International Affairs, had its nucleus in each area, the existing submerged Round Table Group. In New York, it was known as the Council on Foreign Relations and was a front for J.P. Morgan and Company in association with a very small American Round Table Group. The American organizers were dominated by a large number of Morgan experts. Remember, it was Morgan from 1880 to 1940. It was Rockefeller from 1940 to the present, with the new rich trying to strike at him. Joseph Kraft, he's the one who wrote the commentary in 1958. He wrote a magazine article in Harper's called A School for Statesmen. Talking about you don't go into the State Department unless you come through the Council on Foreign Relations. Talks about the chief agent of the council was Colonel House. As part 2 to this lecture, I'm going to bring the secret papers for Colonel House. I've never bought them to a lecture before. I bought it for $2, 1912 book. A whole discussion about Colonel House and his secret papers and stuff. Also, got a piece in here. A brother gave me a book from the letters of W.B. Du Bois, and in it was a letter. I got it up here from Du Bois to James Weldon Johnson. He's telling James Weldon Johnson, you need to get with me, he said, over at the NAACP. He said, but it's your participation and mine in that secret organization you and I both know about that will facilitate us being able to steer the NAACP in the appropriate direction. Now that's very important about the use of a secret organization. James Weldon Johnson became executive director. Du Bois was the editor of The Crisis. Du Bois was the first man to ever speak at the Council on Foreign Relations. And his speech in the 1920s was about the color line. And it is not what black people think. It was not the color line, we not racist. It was don't let nobody come in here and start no color shit. And he was really talking to Garvey and them. Anyway, we want to just file that historic context in there for just a minute. We remember, if you remember those books, Rockefeller Files, on the other side with me. Michael Jackson's Moonwalk Secrets. SOS. What is SOS?
Help me out.
Well, SOS is a distress signal. Isn't that what SOS is? That now we in trouble. Ain't that what SOS is? Do that say save our socks? Do that say white socks? It say SOS. What is SOS? Come on. I'm getting together now. Don't sleep it. We ain't Christ. Christ hopefully coming. We come here with Michael Jackson. I got a little deeper there. Yeah, the 3 MJs, all the 3 MJs. Y'all remember, brother Coach? Got them up off the pine, African. All 3 of them. Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, and Magic Johnson. I told y'all when they set them 3 down, all 3 of them motherfuckers done got back up. Now, I only suggest that we're profound about knowing what whites specifically land punishment and know how to instigate people up out of punishment. And I can tell you, I know Dr. Eileen got the Magic Johnson. I know Sears Miles got the Magic Johnson over that AIDS thing and how hard everybody worked to get to him to tell him, buddy, you've been bumped. And you remember we said it was that Jewish Dr. Rubin ass that told him he had to sit down as the boy was going to die. Right. The boy had been going 4 years now. He said, man, the motherfucking hoax. Now, I told you all in them tapes about how hurting it was. I was right here in the center of the quad when they announced that that boy was sick. He had resigned from the Lakers. And how students was crying all over the campus. And how the fact that people would let AIDS or a virus into their body when they felt weak because they saw somebody who looked popular to them and felt if they could get it, that they would get it too. So many black people got weak chemically because they softened up thinking that if they can't escape because magic couldn't escape it. And so that's a psychological weakness. Now think about this comeback. What do the comeback mean? Now Magic ain't done one single story yet about how he's making it. He refused to take the ACT. He was taking it. He announced it first. He was taking it. Then he came back and announced he stopped. Because everybody got to him. That's killing you, brother. Now we already know Sears Miles is dead. Sears Miles is dead. He died about a month ago. We don't know. They say it was kidney failure. I still yet to get out to California. And I got a plane ticket, but I ain't been able to gather enough resources. Sears Miles is dead, and my man Thomas Mitchell out of Chicago is dead. Both Streckers are dead now? I know one Strecker was dead, but I ain't heard the other Strecker. If he ain't dead, I ain't heard from him lately.
Dr. Sadie says that he's trying to get in contact with Magic Johnson.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. Yes, brother, what you gonna say? Anyway, remember these concepts that came out of the council from the book Rockefeller Files, done by James Warburg. Remember Paul and James Warburg were founding members of the council, the financiers for Germany's Hitler. But remember they came forth under the concept, we shall have world government, whether or not you like it or not, whether or not you like it, by conquest or consent. Now I have a book by James Warburg on a new world order, shaping a new world order. I think it's like a 1920 book. I'm going to bring it to part 2 because it's got some deep, deep quotes in there about how they would allow a superpower to build up in Europe to force war to make all the countries in Europe unite. And that was Hitler, of course. They needed Hitler to force a dilemma big enough to compel consolidation. That they would drop the ethnic differences, say from the France and from the Germans, to make them all one unit. And yes.
Hey, good.
That's right. Come on with it.
Are you familiar with this guy that comes on Sunday night, 11:30, Dr. Van Empty?
What's his name?
Check that out. Jack Van Empty.
Oh,
He talks in codes about the Bible and the 8 volumes with the 13 heads.
No, it's just on record.
Out of the, like the U.S., NATO.
He always say that.
Right, I think Pat Robinson is pretty good at that too.
Yeah, he was talking in codes about how beast is coming back with the New World
He
Order
always
himself.
he said that like on this advertisement said, the leader of the New World Order will
Yeah, every Sunday it comes on, 11:30. And what would be the twist with the LaRouche Foundation talking about that this is coming out of England as well?
Well, we know it started in England, South Africa, United States. I'm going to bring up the LaRouche point because I got to mention a professor's name.
Okay.
Let me go backwards. We know that the founding of the Council on Foreign Relations is an extension of the Rhodes-Rothschild Secret Society. We know in the United States it was Council on Foreign Relations, in Britain, the Royal Institute for International Affairs. And that each and every country, whether it be Russia, Denmark, France, Ireland, all of them have their institutes for international affairs, whether it be French Institute for International Affairs, etc., etc., etc. The original board of directors of the council, the founding directors. Just to read into the record real quick, there are just 10 of them. The first set of directors to the council, and I may have to spell some of these names for I know I can't repeat them correctly. Isaiah Bowman, Archibald Carey Coolidge, Paul Kravitz, K-C-R-A-V-A-T-H, is a lawyer. John W. Davis, Norman H. Davis, Stephen Dugan, D-U-G-G-A-N, John Finley, Edwin Gay, G-A-Y, David Houston, Otto Kahn, Frank Polk, Whitney Shepperson, William Shepperson, Paul Warburg, George Wickersham. Then came in Alan Dulles and Hamilton Fish Armstrong, Walter Lippmann, and on down. Other people you remember, Henry Weston at Citibank, David Rockefeller, Averill Harriman, John McCloy, Bill Moyer, Cyrus Vance, Hedley Donovan was editor of Time, Elizabeth Drew, she's a columnist, Zygmunt Brzezinski, Paul Warkey was arms control, Paul Boyker, Theodore Hirschberg at Notre Dame, Lane Kirkland, FLCIO, George Bush, Henry Kissinger, Winston Lord, James Holt, he's the editor of the Foreign Affairs, Gene Kirkpatrick, Bobby Eamon, Harold Brown, Alan Greenspan, Warren Christopher, Louis Preston, who was at the World Bank, William Rogers, George Shorts, former Secretary of State, both of them, as well as Richard Cheney, former Secretary of Defense. Strobe Talbot, William Cohen, former Senator, Alice Rivlin, who's in Clinton's administration, John Reed, Chairman of Citibank, Tom Donahue, who just got defeated as head of the AFL-CIO, William Crow, who headed the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who was Clinton's military man, got him through the military crisis to be president, Robert Hormats from Goldman Sachs, Richard Holbrooke, who's Undersecretary of State for Bosnia Settlement, Donna Shalala, who's Health Human Services, Ed Corrigan, who was head of the Federal Reserve in New York, and others. Robert E. Allen, who's head of AT&T. Remember, the Ford Foundation board is dominated by directors of AT&T. Theodore Sorensen, Garrett Utley used to be an NBC commentator. Garrett Utley is head of a division of the Council on Foreign Relations. Les Aspens, who's now deceased. Jessica Einhorn, she's head of the DC connection for the council. George Soros just got on. That rich Greek boy who they've been profiling, they just put Soros on. He's a 95 director. Hannah Horborn Gray, who was head of University of Chicago when I was there. George Mitchell, who just resigned as senator. Senator Mitchell was head of the Foreign Relations Committee. They put him on the council. Anyway, those are just some of the members, the names I just spotted through, just to spot them into the record. The institutions that the council facilitated. The Bilderberger Group, we'll talk more about that in part 2, but the Bilderberger Group started in 1950 was necessary to instigate the centralization of Europe, to make Europe come together, in 1950, one of the institutes that the Council on Foreign Relations and the Royal Institute were specific about founding was all of you all know, the European Common Market. It started in 52, but it was the formation of the Bilderberg in 50 that went away and started the European Common Market. Of course, the European Common Market led into the formulation of NATO. NATO isn't up here, but that became their military alliance. In 40 to 46, they came forth and formed the United Nations. And we know very clearly from the book on Imperial Brain Trust. They state specifically in there how it was a committee of the Council on Foreign Relations that wrote a resolution that suggested that there should be something called the United Nations. And it was out of their resolution that a United Nations got formulated. And just to verify that Rockefeller connection, we all remember that it was Nelson Rockefeller that even donated the land that the United Nations was built on. As it was, they first wanted to propose it to be in another country. Anyway, we know it was Council on Foreign Relations in America, Roundtable Group, European Common Market, the United Nations. Then comes the Club of Rome, which limits the growth. We know that the United Nations gave birth to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Those came out of the Bretton Woods Conference, and Bretton Woods was a part of this axis that scholars of United Nations and United States and Europe. Also, the inquiry in the early 1900s with Walter Lippmann, a secret group that wrote the history of America, was very CFR controlled. The European Parliament, the Euro dollar, the ECU, which is the currency of debt. Now they're arguing in the paper the other day they can't get the money together. That's public money. The ECU is debt money. Most big money is done through paper, not through money, not through a dollar bill. They don't send $1 billion worth of dollar bills to a bank to cut a deal. They send paper. So the paper unity has already gone down. This unity of whether it's going to be a coin or a dollar, whether it's going to be 100 or 50 is really bullshit. That's like saying once we build the toilet, you say they're going to use toilet paper, and if they don't, they're going to need to wipe their ass with their hands. So something is going to come about, and to pretend like it ain't coming is just bullshit. We also know that the Council on Foreign Relations, which was responsible for, as Kissinger said, to come forth with how to achieve the New World Order, and in the biography of Kissinger by Marvin Cowell, he has a whole chapter in there about Kissinger and the Council and how Nelson Rockefeller and the Council saved his life, brought him out of obscurity in Europe, and let him be a thinker for the rich. And of course, we know eventually the process of the Council was not enough for controlling world order. And what all those years of deliberation taught them was that they ended up needing a three-sided alliance. Now, I want to show you something that almost looked real stupid, but this is how stupid I look at shit. Now, look at Rockefeller's name. Count what number of name he is from the top. 7, right? Now, I'm looking over here at Chairman Emeritus and stuff, and look the way his name comes down. It's just going to be happening. It's just going to happen. Probably was an accident. No, it ain't that way. It's trying to get where. How this went. I got to find this. I had the, it's a breakdown of the, no, it's in the front. Here we go. It's a breakdown. There we go. Honorary officers and director emeriti of the council. Count the number of names that it says Rockefeller. Rockefeller's the 7th name, and then under that it says honorary chairman. He's the only honorary chairman of the council. There's honorary directors and it's honorary, honorary officers and director emeriti. Rockefeller is listed as honorary chairman, but he comes up the 7th name.
His address in Rock Creek Park is 2121.
His address in Rock Creek Park is 2121. That would be J. Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because somebody kept using something I should be passing this house.
But see,
On 7, did that. Yeah.
but see, you also notice how they do it, the far right-hand corner and the far left-hand corner. On the far right, they got Japan. In the middle, they got North America. And in the left, they got European. They both do it in blocks.
Yep, and remember that's the 3-cluster theory. That's what the trilateral had to come forth with. Now, interesting, you see Volcker is the chairman. Volcker is staff head of Wolferson and Associates. What is Wolferson doing since he can't head his own company? What does Wolferson do?
World Bank.
He's head of the World Bank. So when Wolferson leaves to take the World Bank, Volcker, who's trilateral chairman, Council on Foreign Relations director, moves over to take Wolferson's spot in his investment financing company. Because in here, Volcker's job is listed as chairman of Wolferson and Associates. Anyway, we just pick up on that. That's just to verify those interconnections. Now, let me say this quickly. Yes. Okay, hurry cut. Okay, this won't take but a few more minutes. I don't want to hold you too long. While the other one was over there at the NAACP with that woman and the, what's the brothers over there? Spingar brothers. Villard and that woman were all the ones that ran everything at the NAACP. That's James Weldon Johnson's picture. When I was at George Mason, the brother stood up and said, well, I tell you what Phi Beta Sigma did. They wrote the Black National Anthem, which James Weldon Johnson did, a big time boule. And if you look at the anthem carefully, look at that pale, putrid-ass Spingard. That's Joel Spingard, who was the one who was hooked with military intelligence, gave all the names of NAACP to the white man.
Go ahead.
And of course, there's Du Bois with that lop-ear mustache. And I shouldn't personally degrade it. In here is the letter. See down another part, but I didn't highlight this way I should have. He's turning to James Weldon Johnson and telling him about our secret organization. This is the part that Joel Spingard about setting up. He's asking the board to allow him to go work with Spingard to be the spy man. And I got to find another part of this, to the spy man. And he's asking for the board for permission. And also in the secret letters, he talks about, they published the Talented Tim speech. You ever seen the whole Talented Tim speech? Never seen it all myself either. Now I know why. It was at the Boule meeting, but I found a full copy of it, and it is loaded with shit. We're going to get to that when I go back and do a part 1 and part 2 of the Boule coming up in the future. Here, this Surrender by Conquest. This is back to the disarmament program about how peacekeeping capabilities of the United Nations should be sufficiently strong and obligations of all states shall be all states under such arrangements sufficiently far-reaching as to ensure peace and just settlement of differences in a disarmed world. It's world gun control. State Department, I need to know how to find copies of these. These are their declarations and stuff, publication numbers of resolutions and stuff. I like to know how to get some of that. Yes, you can. You can stay up there with me. You know, girl getting so big and so strong on Africa, boy, the girl is strong. Now, let me show you this. You remember we had the lecture here. We had the lecture in town. We were talking about that. The Golden Vindies and all of that stuff. Now, I found so much stuff on that. You remember the Greek thing is called, they call the Greek the Pan-Hellenic Council. That's the leadership of the Greek thing. In fact, there's the word Pan-Hellenic. 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 Okay, baby, let's put it down just like that. Pan-Hellenic. Look up the word pan in a dictionary of symbols. It's a Greek god. It's the Greek god with the head of a goat.
They also pronounce that pond, right?
Pan, pon, P-A-N. That's what the god's name is. It's a Greek word. And in Greek, it's the Greek god, and that's where the word panic is supposed to come from. Right. And Hellenic. That's supposed to be Helen, or Helen of Troy, or Helen of some Greek. But Hellenic is real clear to me. Anyway, that's just a little sidebar or something. Things that the, that's right, she's all right. She's really sweet, that's all right. Things that the United, and don't forget these numbers. You need to write those numbers down, because that's how everything comes out to 15 in the 9 squares. And 15 is the devil card in the tarot deck. And in fact, call out those numbers, baby. What's those numbers right there? Call those numbers out. Holler out loud. What you see? What's that number? What's that number? Oh, okay. That gets you out of here. Actions that the council initiated. World War II, because World War I was already over. They tried the League of Nations. Mr. X, the article in Foreign Affairs written by George Kennan, which after the Russians helped the United States beat Germany, they then came out with the Mr. X article, and that was the beginning of the Cold War in 1948. Korea, the book Council on Foreign Relations, The Imperial Brain Trust, clearly identifies issues in which the Council was a predominant actor in. And those issues deal with the Council and American policy in Southeast Asia from 1940 to 1975. Shaping a New World Order, the Council's blueprint for global hegemony, 39 to 44. That's when they, the division of the Council on Foreign Relations Policy Study Group went right into the State Department, 39 people, and got deputized and made government officials. And then that's when they came up with the resolution for the United Nations, and that's always also when they came up with the creation of the United Nations. So they were involved in the Korean War, the domino theory, the Vietnam War, the domino theory. Ooh, very nice. Look at there. Of course, Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex. Don't forget McNamara's commentary about having failed in the Vietnam War. Because this meant, he said, even though we know it wasn't working, we still went ahead and did it. And that's important. That means sometimes things are so big nobody can stop it. This book here, The Insiders, The Architects of the New World Order, Part 1, the Carter years, Part 2, the Reagan years, Part 3, the Bush years, by John McManus. He's the guy who, they ran a large piece of him for a while on C-SPAN when he was speaking over American youth on the Council on Foreign Relations. His folks wrote that book, Shadows of Power, which is on the council, which is around here somewhere. Yeah, that's right, ain't got that. Shadows of Power. But in here it talks about how Richard Nixon wrote an article for Foreign Affairs on China, saying how we need to open the doors to China, and that was right before he became president in 68, and then eventually, in 72, Nixon opened the doors to China. But it was in the council that said they would open the doors first. These are council analysis from the John Burke Society work. These are their books here. Huh? Pictures in here? Good pictures. Yeah, good pictures. Yeah, Nixon, Eisenhower, Khrushchev, good pictures. We'll talk about them a little later. But I just made a note of the article comes out in the Council on China, whoop, and the world goes for the Council on China. One last thing I want to do before I end, and actually is one slight thing is to tell you that in this last trip I went to Tallahassee. It was a very tricky trip. They sent the plane tickets the day after I was supposed to come home. They told me they sent them Federal Express, but they didn't send them Federal Express. But they were telling me, trying to find an ID number, and they didn't even have one. They never put out any flyers on the campus. But a little brother who was inspired by the material, I called him down there, and he put the flyer out with his friends. And so 2 days before the program, over 700 students showed up at the program, but the people who were sharing it had nothing to do with getting the information out. It was strictly put out by my own friends. When I actually get there and actually start lecturing, the white guy runs the building, this beautiful auditorium I was in. He comes up and says, I got to stop. It's 9 o'clock. I've been on 30 minutes. He's standing behind me on stage, said, I got to stop. Because ain't no selling of tapes in the auditorium. Now, ain't nobody told me this. But a sister, an elder, jumps up and said, I bought tapes here 3 weeks ago. And 2 weeks before, I always bought stuff. Either you can't buy stuff, you can't buy his stuff. Ooh. And then they put me in this real garbage hotel trying to really discourage me. When I got to Tallahassee, they left me at the airport for an hour alone. And then they show up, all these security people bumping all over me. I said, well, where was the security when I was standing my ass here alone when y'all thought I didn't make it? I had to make them buy a new plane ticket because the old ticket hadn't come yet. So I had to make them buy a new ticket. Then they said they couldn't buy a new ticket without the old ticket. And literally, I started talking to the school administrators. I talked to the travel agency. I talked to the firm that was set it up, and to the student government leadership, and had to force all of them into doing it. They really didn't want me. But once I finally got there, and all them applicants piled up into that room, and we got to throwing down, some key things happened. I got a call from a little Mexican sister. She said, I live in Florida. I work in the president's office. She said, I was in there that whole week before you got there. I watched them plan and strategize and keeping you off of this campus. I don't know you. I never heard of you. I came to the lecture, and when I came to the lecture, I figured out why they was working against you. She said, I've never been as impressed with the material, blah, 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 that's one thing. But she said, I'm also going to go back there and keep my fingers on. Now, if any of you all go and tell that, yeah, you got a Spanish girl in the president's office, she might be Russian. She might be Haitian. So if you say Spanish, I'll know which group it came from. Now, in fact, Wichita was Haitian, you know? So all the shit is coded, but we got our people there. So as they began to do shit to us, we got our people there to watch it. When my little buddy put the flyers out, the head facilities manager, the man who controls all the buildings, he instructed all the building supervisors to take all the flyers down. Little flyer said African students, and they had the pyramid and all CNI, and they had a versus carved into it. The African student versus the New World Order, Steve Coakley. And they took them down. My little buddies called them, taking them down. And one older brother, they really crushed on this brother. I mean, they dogged him hard, talked about him real hard. And so the facilities manager and some of the facilities people came to the lecture and they were really hurt that they had been a part of taking them down, and told my buddy that they were told to take them down. And the guy, the facilities manager, he said, well, we saw the lecture and we feel better than them. He said, you didn't tell us this was a black stuff. This was real black stuff. We would have supported you. We just told to do it. If we had known better, we wouldn't have done it, or would have done it after the lecture was over. And then the one guy that they crushed on, he told him, he said, man, that guy y'all crushed the deepest, he's hurt the most because he's really the blackest of all of us. And when he found out really how black the program was, his feelings was really hurt that you all talked about him like you did, because he's really a good black man. So all of them went to him, they bought the guy a card, the little brother signed him everything, and went to this guy and apologized to him for breaking him down so hard. He apologized for taking the flyers down, but all that shit was the runway for the return. Because now the facilities manager, the anti-professors, and the workers all on us right now. Well, at first they was working against us and didn't know why. Now, I'm in Wichita, Kansas. Brother Jabari's calling my phone and listening to his name. But Steve, you got to call me some shit up. I thought there was some shit up going on here. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, right? So I get home, I reached Jabari yesterday. He said, man, I don't know if you want to holler from there, but I'll tell it the best I can. He said, my buddy called me from Florida, said the professors are down there in that class and saying you're an FBI agent because that information you gave up while you was down here. And the one professor who said it said he's a LaRoche. Somebody asked me a question about the LaRoche. That was the reason I brought that back up. Now, you know Anton Chaikin was just up in Philadelphia saying that Steve Coakley was an FBI agent, and they asked him why was the FBI agent. He said, because he's out here fabricating that organization called the Boule, and we researched it and found out that it doesn't exist. Now that adds to the crew, Tony Mohammed, the minister of the Nation of Islam on the West Coast, who was attacking me. That's in Insights and Reflections, the tape, who said that I was out there fabricating the history of the Boule. And so the opposition is coming up, but they're coming up weak. They're coming up unprepared. That's all right. And I don't mind anybody calling me a spy. They can call me whatever they wanted. I can live with all of that. But when they're asked to tell why, that's when they really fumble the deepest. And I'm intrigued by the fact that the opposition is out there and they're weak and indecisive about how to really go at me. And since you can't go at me over the facts, it's kind of hard to get in there. You know, say the board breath stank, or you always pull past the hat and shit. You can say some shit like that, that'd be true. But when you start saying he's creating the Boule and you know all that conspiracy stuff he's talking about is really no stuff at all, I'm looking for a document when Anton Chaikin says that I'm a spy. A sister in the audience says, what evidence do you have? This is our brother. We in Philadelphia. This is the night, a couple of nights after we were at the Eastern Market doing the lecture, me and Brother Hamza, and who was supposed to have showed up here tonight. He stands up and he says Coakley is FBI agent because he hosted that Black Holocaust meeting that was held in D.C. the weekend of the Million Man March, trying to front Farrakhan all off and stuff. Now that was interesting, because front Farrakhan off with who? We already know that Seamus had admitted they met with the FBI, the CIA, FEMA, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and everybody else. At that point, who ain't you already with? So to say I was running off intrigued me. Oh, here it is. So then he says, Anton Chaikin, he says, ain't she gotten big? Hey, what's your name? Boy, she told Bruce one night, he said, what's your name? My name, truth, justice, righteousness, and balance. Then, check this out. So Chaikin, okay. Chaikin says, well, he hosted the Black Holocaust meeting. Well, of course, you all know the reality to that. That's not even a point here or there. I wouldn't even get into, well, no, I didn't do it. Malik did it. That would be weak. That would be doing some finger pointing. But then they said, well, that's garbage. And then he says, well, because he's out here creating that Boule thing. Then the brother jumps up in the audience and he pulls this document out and he said, Mr. Chaikin, this right here is something I'm getting ready to send Steve Coakley. This is the handwritten charter that the Boule filed with the state of Pennsylvania to be an organization in the state in 1911. This is a copy of it. He said, here is the stamp by the think Coakley the FBI, but the facts, hey, so then he had to break up the meeting and get the fuck out of there. And I'm going to get them down here soon. I'm going to get up there so we can get that testimony from them. I need the tape. I told them I need the tape because I want to play the tape for you, but the fact that they were in the audience and stood up meant that the enemy cannot guess where it ain't no friends of ours. Right. That you can't look at a friend and tell who it is, so because they all don't look the same, they make these wrong moves. So now here comes this other discussion. Coakley, the professor lets his class out for the people to come to my lecture. Then after they come, he gets them in the classroom and says, now you can see why we know he's an FBI agent. Now the other professor, Professor Abrams, is out there. He's calling me FBI agent. He's the ADL representative on the campus. He told the students in his class, he come against me. The students jumped up on him, and now these classes are getting uncontrollable. There's arguments going on. People are walking out of the classes. They're telling the teacher, fuck them. They're acting like I'm trying to get the teachers fired. So I'm taking all of that testimony and putting it on that new flyer to set up the return and I asked any of you all want to go down there with me. We're going to do Morehouse for 2 days, then we're going to Florida A&M for 2 days. Because Florida, Tallahassee, Florida is right at the bottom of Georgia. Just a couple hour drive from the one to the other. And this deep boule country. And in Morehouse, they wanted to bring me back. The student government said, we've already brought him last 2 years. We can't bring him no more, so I'm going to go back myself. But the president, Walter Massey, who I kicked real bad, didn't come up with a new code of conduct for speakers. Because of Coakley, now we got to have code of conduct for speakers where the speakers pledge not to speak against administration. Ain't that funny? So now, they telling me, one student, the student government leader said, well, you're going to have to sign this code of conduct. I said, Baba, that's for the people who you paying. You ain't paying me to come back there. You get something that you got to sign up. I'm coming on my own. I ain't signing shit. Anyway. But in Florida, it was real deep. Florida was real deep. The newsman came out, the CBS station man came out. He wanted to interview me. He said, what years were you in the Black Panther Party? I said, now, what happened was the next week, Eldridge Cleaver came down, and he thought I was Eldridge Cleaver. He interviewed me as if I was the Black Panther. I said, man, I ain't the Black Panther. And get the cameraman to come over and me to interview him in his chair. And he said, I asked you, he said, you're really ignorant. You're impolite. I asked you what your name was, and you couldn't tell me. I said, no, I didn't tell you. And so I interview him sitting in the chair. And then all of the students get in on me and the microphone on him. He still goes and does me the lead story on the news in Tallahassee, and I was still called a Black Panther. That meant that whatever the script was, the script had to be, and they couldn't deviate from the script. Whatever that was. And then they said they called me up. That Eldridge Cleaver just left there talking a bunch of crazy shit. Talking about love Jesus and all kind of crazy love Republicans, cook barbecue, and rare crazy shit. But that the same guy came and did the interview and did the same lead-in. Okay. Now, let me just say this real quick. Now, I just wanted to show you this. Where's that card at? Oh. Don't forget the tape that we did called Slow Burn. Oh, now check this out here. The sidebar. Now, let me just set the council to the side for 1 second. Close the council part by saying that quickly said that I tried to solve this difficulty by dividing the group into two concentric circles, the inner core of intimate associates, and who unquestionably knew that each were members of a group devoted to a common purpose, and an outer circle of a larger number of whom the inner circle acted by personal persuasion, patronage, distribution, and social pressure. It is probably that most of the members of the outer circle were not conscious that they were being used by a secret society. Anyway, that's the circle within a circle dialogue on the council. And where's that folder at? I had the council notes on, because I just want to make sure that I got everything I need to get in this part, McNamara, CFR, and the race question. I'm going to say that real quick. Remember W.B. Du Bois is the first man to ever speak there. I'll show you his speech there at the next meeting. Elaine Locke was the first Black Rose Scholar, 1908. Very important because, again, it wasn't another Rhodes Scholar until 63. One of the main blacks involved in policy study group of the council was Ralph Bunch, who then went off to become the main man in the United Nations, set up the state of Israel, but he headed a study group in the council. Council's first study group on Africa wasn't until the 50s. Jesse Jackson tape and the Shut Up Rule. Jesse Jackson's tape and the Shut Up Rule. I might not get to Jesse Jackson tonight. The annual report, the position 80s project, left, right, center, blank, the money, where the money came from, and the phrase. I'll get to those in a minute, but I just want to get these in real quick. Brother Khalid calls me from Atlanta. He said, man, real emergency. My life is in danger. So I went to sit back down to eat. The sister looked at me, we got the message. The sister looked at me and said, well, you gonna get up and call it? I said, look at that fool boy, it's really awful. It's another one of them nights that you gave. Y'all just don't know. So now it's like, man, I'm hungry. I'm on the road, around shit like I am now. And here it is. And so I go to the phone, I call Khalid. He said, Steve, I'm supposed to speak in Savannah, Georgia. Now this is following up on Insight to the Black Side, Slow Burn, and the Climate of Rapid Change. When we talked about the Bruce Monroe thing. He says, man, something's up. Now, Brother Jamil, you remember Brother Jamil used to be up here in Baltimore? Well, I thought he had been the minister of Atlanta, but he's been on suspension for a year. Evidently, something happened with him and a woman, and he got suspended for a year. He just got reinstated last week. That's important because the brother who was the Supreme Council, the Supreme Captain down there, had put the word out that Brother Khalid was a traitor, and I think the word was Minister Farrakhan had said or suggested or insinuated that the brother should be killed. And someone else had told Khalid that the minister in an idle discussion said that I heard my brother Khalid in Washington, D.C. And y'all, that election was suggesting that I should be killed because I have violated my tenet that I made with the organization. Well, it's interesting that he brought that up because my buddy in Chicago from the nation called me and said, man, guess what's going around here in Chicago? People are pulling back up that tape about the minister saying, if I ever get with whites, if I ever do this, if I ever do that, they're bringing that tape back up and playing it to everybody again. They said, old tape got new life. And he was saying, it's surprising, what's going on out there? And I said, he said, old tape got new life. He said, what's going on out there? and I said, well, you know, it's funny, that had just come up here. That had just come up here with all you gotta do is push the rewind button. Oh, here, it went off again. Do that every time. Oh, shit. Look at that, boy. It tried to mess up. No, Bruce, we gotta save this one because it got the other side on it. Oh, no, we got it. Okay, we'll give it out anyway. Trying to keep doing what I just did. Huh? No. Okay, yeah, sometimes it ain't good if it ain't going in there right. Now hold it. Shit. Boy, okay. No, Bruce, I gotta straighten it now, because, I gotta make sure that I got it straight. Yeah, and see, the more I do this, the worse it gets. Okay, hold it, that's straight. Okay, now, I need somebody to turn it. Take the pen out of my hand. You got it. There we go. Great, there we go. All right, now, let's go back. Now y'all gotta see me do it 3 times. Oh, wrong one. Okay.
Safest day is the 23rd.
Yeah, beat. This is it. Oh, no. See, we gotta play first. Let's play.
Denoting
okay, look, you all. Okay, look. This is a donation basket. Everybody want to make a donation? Sister, pass the hat. I really need your support. I want to get to L.A. I got the ticket, but I can't get to stay. So anyway, do what you can. I appreciate you. $7 is a lot to pay to come in. Oh, get me. $7 is a lot to pay to come in, and I had not even been passed to have on these type of lectures because I consider that high. Again, it cost me $100 to rent the joint, and that's 16 people, so you can count. We got about 8 people over what it costs just to be here, so that's about $56 for the value of the lecture. That's what I get, and he gets more than me. I gave the lecture. He showed up late. Anyway, do what you can. I appreciate your support. There's some case over there too. I appreciate your support there. Yes, Khalid, right. And she look, she picks up the story. It's the story I needed right over there. Khalid was telling me about this story. Right here. This is the story. Let Dan see this, okay? Dan see this? Here, write in Dan's book. You can write. All right? There we go. Write a speech for Daddy. Okay, now, Vibe magazine. Anyway, let's go back. You ready? Y'all ready? Yeah. So Khalid calls me. He says, man, something is up. He said that the minister down here, the minister who's running it, because Jamil is on suspension, he said that the minister told the brothers of the Moore Science Temple brothers were bringing him to Savannah, Georgia. He said they always get big attendance down there, and so they said that, he said they called Supreme Captain Sharif, they called the regional captain to ask him to give me security in Savannah. He said, but the regional captain says that Khaled's been speaking against the minister up in Washington, and now see, remember, can't nobody get the tape. That's in the slow burn about how they couldn't get the tape. Right. I believe they almost tried to give them the tape. Right. Anyway, and that Khalid said to me, he said the minister has mentioned the people in a subtle sort of way that Khalid said some things in Washington that insinuate he should be killed, and he said that's not good for my brother to have done that. And Khalid said, man, that's a death sentence right there. If the minister say that around anybody, a zealot walks up out the room and don't come back till he finished. He said, I know how this shit works. He said, Steve, this is danger. So when they go to Savannah, Georgia guy, he says that the regional minister said Khalid betrayed the minister in the article that's in Vibe magazine. Now, what is so deep about that statement is this. This was the cover of Vibe. They've got the death row on the front. I'm going to tell y'all, too, the death row boys want to get out. Now, I want y'all to take y'all to the video by Dr. Dre and Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur bought a whole set of tapes before he went to jail. Come into the good life a couple of times. That the death row boys want to get out, too. Now, the lynch mob who was behind Ice Cube and all that crowd is going to be up in this thing up here in New York. But I wouldn't be surprised if some more that make it over there. Now, you know they got an East Coast, West Coast thing going. Right. Khalid might be the one to be able to unify that thing, but it's getting heavy. But that California piece that they got out now is a heavy piece. West Coast, East Coast. But the Death Row boys want to get out on the next trip. So, look, I ain't going to do the Snoop Doggy Dogg, but something up. Anyway. Now, so he says Khalid spoke against the minister in this article in Vibe magazine. Well, the article was done by Peter Noel. He's the one that did that story on Khalid and Brother Eric. You all know the story about the nation chasing Brother Eric up in New York and almost trying to kill him. And that's an insight from the black side and counterinsurgency then and now on the back. And so in there, Peter Noel did the story in the Village Voice. The second story then ended up in the New Yorker on Conrad Muhammad. Well, Peter Noel does a 5-day interview with Khalid. He's trying to get Khalid to say things against the minister, but Khalid won't do it. So the story doesn't end up about Khalid. The story is about Silis Muhammad. Right. Anybody else for the donation? We miss anybody? Anybody else got a $1,000 check? $500 check. Anyway, all those with over $5,000 in their bank account, give up $500. You have over $10,000, give up $1,000. So in retaliation, that man whose head is cut off, you see that man whose head is cut off? Yeah. That's Khalid. Check that out. Check that out. See, baby? That's Brother Khalid's head right there. It's gone. Right. In retaliation for not saying against the minister what they wanted, they end up cutting Khalid's head out the story. But the cutting of Khalid's head was more like the thing. Right? Now, look over, the story ends up Silis Muhammad against the minister. That's where the story ends up. And it's a story about the letter Silis Muhammad wrote to the minister saying, if me and you gonna get together, then you gotta introduce me at the Million Man March, you gotta let me follow you around everywhere. And some of the demands were outlandish, and I would have never allowed somebody who felt like that with me to go everywhere I was on that day. I wouldn't do that. And for the minister to come out and introduce him before his own introduction, that's not necessarily logical either, but they needed something. What's the byline of the story? One nation, question mark. The negotiations leading up to the Million Man March between Louis Farrakhan and Silis Muhammad, two longtime rival leaders, revealed fundamental rifts inside the black Muslim movement. Now, Khallid is down in Atlanta speaking at Silis' place. I told you all on that Yale tape that Khalid was down there and the nation confronted him in Atlanta. They ran to the phone and called the minister up on the phone. He gets on the phone at the place in Atlanta where he's speaking with Silis Muhammad, and the minister tells him to write up everything Khalid said and sends to him immediately. That's in the New Haven Yale 9 tape. Now, so they end up using Silis to make the story. And what's interesting is that the brother, the supreme captain in the East Coast down the southern region, tells the dude from Savannah, the Morris Science Temple brother, that Khalid spoke against the minister in the Vibe magazine. The only problem is Khalid's name is not even mentioned in the Vibe magazine. So where did the call to kill come from the story that didn't exist? Deep. So Khalid called and said, I'm supposed to speak on one of them islands or something too. And the supreme captain told him that you can't make another speech until you talk to the minister. Only problem is the minister's in Africa. Now the minister very carefully don't come back until the day after Malcolm. He don't come back until 2 days after the assassination anniversary of Malcolm X. The trip is timed so that he comes back past all of the memories.
Came out on the 23rd,
Yes, 21st is the day. 23rd, 21st was the day. Come back a little after that. So that meant that Khalid couldn't talk to him. He got all these key speakers coming up, and he ain't gonna get no backup till he talks to the minister who he can't talk to. But meantime, they running his head is cut off.
Are you going to read any interesting points? Do you have anything interesting to read into the record about the article?
Yeah. Silis Muhammad's point appears to be the big thing about he won't cut a deal with white people. I cannot in good conscience seek partnership with America, Silis Muhammad wrote, nor can I encourage people to vote in its national political elections. Silis makes some sound points about Elijah Muhammad said they were the devil, they are still the devil, they can't be nothing with us but the devil. You all know I use my term about the political insignificance also. And funny, the story in Wichita, these are the stories in Wichita about me coming to Wichita, ex-mayoral aide to speak in Wichita. That's the first story. Activist urges black networking. I mention this for a reason. They showed me on the TV in Wichita, TV stations come, and the lead story is activists come to Wichita to speak to Million Man March. And then it goes to me and it says, and what does Steve Coakley do? And the audience jumps in, names the names of the enemy. They said that Coakley will speak tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the MacArthur's Park. Only problem was the lecture was at 1. The story here is in this paper. This is the regular paper. Khalid Assad says Steve Coakley has a lot of insights and convicted black people. Assad, a member of the Wichita Million Man March Committee, invites outspoken activists here. It's also familiar with Coakley's practice of provocative speaking style, his led accusations of racism. It also got Coakley fired as automatic aid and mayoral aid in Chicago. But it goes on here to say that Coakley was speaking at McAdams Park at 4 p.m. It was at 1. So the media shows up, gets everybody worked up for a story, and just mistakes the time of the link. So when I'm getting ready to finish at 4, here come all these people. 4:30, 4:10, because they got told it was 4 o'clock. And that's part of why you don't want the media, because anytime they run your story, they run it in a way they can fuck you. But interestingly enough, in the story, they print that little part where Coakley says that Coakley said, and when I couldn't get on the airlines, didn't have a picture ID, I showed the lady in Kansas the picture. She said, oh yeah, now that's you. Just show you how white people are about newspapers. Coakley questioned the logic of pursuing politics as a road to ending oppression of black people. He said black people can win 19 more seats in the United States Senate and 100 more in the House of Representatives, a nearly impossible feat. Black people would still remain numerically insignificant. Politics is not going to whip this thing. Anyway, the point was that's the phrase we use even on all the lectures there, picking that phrase up, those numbers are sound. Only one can't say it right is Khalid. He said it wrong. Well, you know, Steve said that them numbers, what's them numbers about the senators and the congresspeople on? That's right, Khalid, well, you got to get the book out. Which one? Get this? I got it. Okay, anyway, so Khalid tells me about the great danger and stuff down there and everything. You get it, baby? You want some quiet on that. And so Khalid says he's in the story, but he ain't in the story. So he was very worried, and we had to pray for the brother because of the fact that he's worried in this crucial period. This is one of those vague periods. The minister's out of town, and that it makes things real on edge. Very shaky-bakey about this moment in time. Now, let's go back. See, I figured some shit out, right? Remember we talked about the diamond yesterday. You hungry? Okay, yeah, they got some pictures. Want to take some? We talked about how DC is a diamond, right?
Right.
And we talked about the Day of Atonement is hooked with the goat. And part of the atonement is, I'm sorry. I left them. I don't have them. I thought I had them in my bag. I'm sorry. See if mommy got something back there. Anyway, it says that a diamond is the luminous being. It's the hardest. You don't have none either? Okay, baby. Daddy's all out. Daddy got some cookies somewhere. You want a cookie? Here. Huh?
Yeah, here you go, bro.
Yeah, go back there and have my cookies up. Okay, go. Hurry. Now, what's wrong? Oh, yeah, that's the article. Charles got them for you all. Those are some news clipping stories. We'll start trying to give out information at the lecture. Now, you all remember when we went back to this story here, and this was the story in the Post about Satan and the Sphinx, and they ran the story with the map with the north facing sideways, when you know north's supposed to go up, and Brother Hamzo is the one that really figured this out, and how they tried to suggest that this was the goat of Mendes, and of course the goat had something to do with the Day of Atonement. They didn't say that in the article, but Brother Jabari came up with that from the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. And it's when you turn the thing that way that you see, that when you turn it that way, that you see that here's the goal of Mendes here, and not over here where they tried to say it was at the Capitol building facing out to the mall, that it was more like over here from the White House up to the House of the Mother Supreme and etc. And that was really the goal of Mendes. And so that the goat, now check this out. What makes the whites give up the permit for the Million Man March? Now, remember, the diamond is the strongest stone, the luminous being, the unconquerable, and diamond can only be weakened by what? Anybody know what is the only thing that weakens a diamond? Huh? Oh, sister, no. No, if you look it up, it says the only thing that can soften a diamond is the hot blood of a sacrificed goat. Ooh. That's deep. Now, the only thing that can soften up a diamond is the hot, it says you pour the hot blood of a goat over it. Now, think about it. He comes to Washington, he repudiates Khalid, calls him repugnant, this, and that. In the repugnancy, Khalid is exalted up, he's set up for getting shot at, he gets shot at in May. What? Comes back around to come to D.C. to get the permits, D.C. gets soft to him. He has, Khalid became a scapegoat. He's repugnant, he's repulsive, he's this and that, and all of that got chucked on to Khalid. The goat goes by the, remember the goat says like the Grecian Sphinx, is the definition of the goat in the Dictionary of Symbols. And fact, I brought it with me. Yeah, this will help me. I think it's in this one. Let me see if it's in this one. This new one I got. On the word diamond, about what softens a diamond. Oh, no, it's not in this one. Diamond comes from the Sanskrit du. Diamond means luminous being, a symbol of light and brilliance. Connected with the Greek adamus, meaning unconquerable, often mystic, irradiant, mystic sinner. Like all precious stones, it partakes of the general symbolism of treasures and riches that is moral and knowledgeable. Whereas in the other dictionary, there's a new dictionary of symbols that they have at Jules of Aton called Dictionary of Symbols and Other Icons.
Yeah, it's a thick book.
Thick one. It's really good, really good, really good. It works good with this one. And in there, in that definition of diamond, is that thing about you pour the hot blood of the goat over the diamond, and that's the only thing that softens it. Now remember, we go back to the boule, go back to that little thing I've been showing that my baby had all over the place about the 9 squares, or even here, you can see how we showed it here on the flyer. That's the golden Mendes there, backwards, up there. And of course down here, these are the 9 squares that we associated with the boule. Then we went to New Haven and found out that New Haven was the city of 9 squares. This was a brochure that was up there. I showed this. So in the audio tape, New Haven, 9 squares. You can even see they shaded it in the angle. This is the residency at the 9th square. The center square is the 9th square. Now, so we go to New Haven, right in the 9th square, there's the Knights of Columbus World Headquarters. Right in the 9th square of New Haven, Connecticut. It's the Catholic Masonic structure. And I didn't have these on overhead, so I had to show them before by hand. And it talks about the founding of the night, all the little yellow, follow the yellow brick Cecil Road, up to the 9th square. That residency at the 9th square is a real estate company. I showed you on the video the Square 9 real estate company, which is right next to that. So that the Knights of Columbus started there in 1882. And the whole connection, they got 1.5 million, how they got a Supreme Council, how the size rises 23 stories and 320 feet above, all that 5 and 5 is 10. And how it's one of New Haven's tallest structures, so they got the Supreme Council, just like the other one, they call it Supreme Council, etc. Now, well, we notice enough these similarities. We go to the center of New Haven. That's the church that sits in the center of New Haven, called the original meeting place. Boy, if that thing say 1010, I'm gonna fall. Yeah, 1004, down to 1005, down there. 1010 is deep in and out. New Haven, Connecticut. They call in the NBC station just like this when they take faxes and questions by phone. Someone calls in, why the clocks all say 1010? They come back the next day and say they talked to 8 different manufacturers and that 1010 is because the name of the watch is in the top center, so to highlight the name, they put the angle like this around the watch. Of course, that was bullshit because I got them up here with the diamond in the center and with no name on the rich watches, ain't no name but diamond studded, it's still 1010, even the digital say 1010. So we know, but the fact that they needed to answer that struck me as more than the answer they got. Yeah, TV comes and sees Coakley, but then they say he's at 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? They don't show up to tell the truth. They come up to, remember the story Satan to the Sphinx? This story, Satan to the Sphinx, wasn't because they wanted us to have clarity. This one here, Satan to the Sphinx, they didn't want us to have clarity. Remember, they were misstating where the goat was. And of course, that's a deeper picture of the goat. We looked at it earlier. And anyway, now, let me show you this because I want to show you real quickly, and that's back to the 9 squares again, and the Kabbalah. Those are the 9 chambers of the Kabbalah. And this was the other map they had in there with north facing up, where this was from the Million Man March study guide, with north facing up. There's the White House, the 16th Street, all going that way, and the monument and all of that. And north facing up, but then they come with that next map with north facing in the opposite direction. This is the center of New Haven, Connecticut, and what they call the green. Now, I have a picture of the green up here I want to show you because I want you to tell me if you see what I see. The green, this is a map of New Haven. The green sits in the center. This is the green. This is the center of New Haven or the 9th square. Now, Brother Eric stole the book out of the library on the history of New Haven, and he won't give it up to Brother Steve. When we up in New Haven, everybody be jumping on him because Steve knows the 9 squares. He don't know them. He won't get a book up. The who do know it, so we can go on and translate it. Now, just a little sidebar to the Golden Mendes. Brother Hamza brought these around to show me this is Anton LaVey on the cover of Look magazine, which was real big. The date, August 24th, 1971. There's Anton LaVey, the one who hooked the Day of Atonement with the sacrifice of 2 goats, Azazel and Zaziel. Azazel and Zaziel. What's that date again? Brother Charles, August 24th, 71. Witchcraft is rising. East Coast, white witches, West Coast, black magic. And you see he's wearing the Golden Mendes on his neck. You see it? Oh, you can't see his neck, sorry. That's another picture I got over here. So right, everybody look at me. Whoa, yeah. Here's another picture about the occult revival on the cover of Time magazine, June 19th, 1972. And look at the Golden Mendes on the hood of the evil person. I'll get to you, cameraman. See it? Look at that. You see the gold and the gold on his face? Yeah. These are courtesy of Brother Hamza. This is his work. I do not purposely ever want to claim another man's work. Nothing wrong with giving tribute to work people do. We have so many things to find. There's room for everybody to find them. Now, unfortunately, we be talking about the devil so much around the house that little sister be saying, Daddy, where that devil at? I took her across the street. She said, Daddy, that devil over there? She be focusing on them devils and stuff, and I got to be careful. Now, in the center of New Haven is that church. And I put that up there just to find this one shot. And I can close on this one shot for Brother Cameraman, but I got to make sure I find the shot to put it up there. And that's the layout of the center of New Haven. And I want you to tell me, this is the green. Now, this is the church that sits in the center of town, the original first meeting place. This is the first church. I showed them before. It got no religious symbols in it at all. They looked in the bottom. In the bottom of the church is a graveyard in the basement of the church. And it says that they removed the floor, discovered by archaeologists that instead of 137 bodies in the crypt, that's what they call the basement of the center church in the 9th square, is a graveyard. In the center of the 9th square, in New Haven, the city of the 9 squares, in the center church, the first meeting place, the center of town, is a crypt up under the basement of the church. And it says, welcome to the crypt. On the video, I don't have a video. I showed it that night. I'll bring it to the next one, one we do on Yale. I'm going to do one just on Skull and Bones. I'm going back to everything I ever did and coming out with the definitive piece on it. Instead of 137 bodies in the crypt, as record shows, there was possibly a number as high as 1,700. Reason for this is because many of the early colonists wanted to be buried close to the mother church, resulting in their burial 3 and even 4 deep. They were buried on top of each other. I showed you all a postcard. When I was here before, I showed you a postcard from there. Let me see, I think I got one in my pocket. I showed you a postcard, and the postcard showed that basement with the graveyard in it. I don't see all of this stuff. Oh, here it is. This is a picture of the graveyard underneath the bottom of the center church. That's, you can see the headstones, and the caption says, Center Church, New Haven, Connecticut. The crypt, the meeting house was built over a section of the ancient burial ground which occupied part of the green. Without disturbing the graves, the oldest stones dated 1687. The pastors of the church all were buried there. Yes. You don't see that? Anyway, y'all see that? That's the crypt. That's in the basement of Center Church that I just showed you. And in the history of Center Church, it says instead of 170 graves, because it's 170 account for on the headstones, when they started digging them up, they found out they were buried 3 and 4 deep. Yes.
We got the same thing in Baltimore.
You got the same thing in Baltimore?
Yeah, where they have, like, you go to the church, down in the basement, they have, like, the grave site of the days, like, back in, like, the 1816.
Ooh, and that's deep because in Baltimore, they got Center Street, too. It's right. Center Street.
It's right there. It's right in the same church where Edgar Allan Poe is buried.
Oh, yeah, down there, Eli Whitney is buried, the cotton gin man. Now, we go to New Haven, the green sets on this. This is the center of New Haven, Connecticut. Now, I want you all to tell me if you see the Golden Mendes out here. This is from a book on New Haven, A Great Place to Live. It's now looking at the walkways in the center of the 9th square. You tell me if you see the Golden Mendes there. Oh, yeah. Is it there or is it not? diamond, and they got the flagpole sitting in the center of the diamond. Remember I told you that when we get to that diamond of D.C., we need to get to that center? What is the center of the diamond of D.C.? Now, Brother Hansel suggested, through the use of his book, I brought his book to get back to him, but I see him come. In his book here about the Monuments of Mars, a city close to the edge forever, by Richard Hoagland, he talks about how, you can see he got circles, triangular circles, and other things in the back, about how it might be three-dimensional. Oh, that's it, just like that, baby. Now, the center church is right over here. Yale is right back over there. Skull and Bones is right down that street there. This is City Hall. This is the main federal building. This is the first courthouse. This is the original museum there. Did all of the Masonic stuff. Over here is a shopping center. Okay, yeah.
Is that facing north?
Now, you know what? You got me on that one. Let me see. Maybe I can find something here that might tell. I got that map of New Haven. Where's that at? Let's go back to that map. I had that map. Oh, here it is. Okay, here we go. Yeah, you know what? Here, let's go back now. This is the map. They have a map there, in there, showing you here where Yale is now. The next port right here is called Mystic Bay. It's right over here. It's called Mystic Bay. This is New Haven. Now, right up over them, right up over Connecticut, is Salem, Massachusetts. And here, they have a big statue honoring Sincue, because the slaves had some big rebellion right in New Haven, and they got free. So right in front of the city hall, right here on the square, and notice the streets, Temple Street runs right up the center. Temple Street. College Street, High Street, that's what Skull and Bones is. Right up High Street, then they got the cemetery right up at the end of Skull and Bones. I had to get you on the road so that you feel for laugh. Yeah, you can take it out now, baby. So, it may be, because if you see this map here, if all maps face up, and you see the green sitting right here, Charles, that's the green, maybe that's looking north, and this is that same shop facing the same way, because the shopping center's right here. I sat right here and looked out this pane window and looked out over this before we found the brochure. Yes, baby. We do that one next. You hold it there, right? So,
We're not big high building near the center, near the green.
the church is right over one of those. Hold it now. I got it backwards. There we go. That's backwards. There we go. Here's the church over here, center church. That I just showed you, that's center church right there.
Where's the big parking lot in New Haven? Where is it on that map?
Big parking lot. You got me.
Big high parking lot. Back here is south of the green.
You got me on that.
Back down.
That might be behind where the picture's showing. Because where the food place is, there is a big parking lot behind the food places. And then that's where those residencies on the 9th Square, this here is a building, apartment building. This here is an apartment building, and at the top, I told you, right at the top of this apartment building, the residences at the 9th Square is a big old cut of 9 squares right into the wall of the building. And how many of you all were here that night when I showed the Yale tape? You remember, you can see right, I showed the camera, right at the top of that building, there were 9 squares carved right into the 10th floor of the building. In the residences at the 9th Square. And again, these are all in the center of the 9th Square. And the point I was adding to about what made D.C. soft to bring in the motion was that having seen the blood of the goat, when Khalid says he's a Capricorn, having seen the blood of the goat, having seen the blood of the goat, that D.C. went on and opened its arms up and got weak to let the march come in. So I said, Khalid, you know, the day of the march was on your back. Got it, cuz?
Yes.
These are signs of distinction. Yes, Pooh. You want to hold this for me? You hold this for me? You know what that says? That says, what's that word right there? What's that word right here? What's this word? You don't know? You know. Oh, show you right. This got them all. On the square, too. Okay, baby. Brother Derek.
Not that way.
Huh?
That way, the little.
Somebody needs to find her. Holler at him. Brother Derek. Hey, Derek. Hey, Derek. I want to do a part 2 to the Council on Foreign Relations lecture. If brother has a place available, I'm going to call it for next Tuesday night to do part 2 to this because I have a few more things I want to pick up. This is that brochure under which that other piece was made from, and this is a map of Yale. And I think this too would tell you too about where that green is, Charles, in the face of Was there something you wanted to say about that? If it was,
It looks like it's kind of like Meridian Hill Park a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
because of how it's laid out.
You want? You put up off the way? You put it off the way. Hold on.
all right. Any questions?
Steve,
Yes.
I had been speaking to this guy who I told him about the DC and as far as
Talk a little louder.
as far as DC and how at every mile there's I believe that every
A marker, yes.
there's a marker.
Every
Each of those markers has a number. It's numerical and it goes in a clockwise formation, I think. At the same time, he also mentioned that there's one of the points on that diamond is called Jones Point. I don't know where it is, but that we should look into.
Jones Point here.
Jones Point.
Yeah, Jones Point is up there by that little park by Washington National. They said somebody had stolen that stone before. They had a big ceremony.
That's the bottom point down there.
Yeah, they had a big ceremony on that Jones Point, and when that one was taken, and in that book Cornerstones that I brought that was selling at the House of the Mother Supreme, they talk about they had a ceremony replacing the stone and said only Americans can lose a stone marking a significant point. And all these British guys and stuff came over here to, the names of the Council on Foreign Relations members.
What I was going to say was I just made a copy of that book.
Which one?
It's in my reading room that I work in.
Which book?
That shows all the cornerstones where they are.
Oh, good. Yeah, that was an article ran in the Post, I think it was December 6th, showing that remember DC is 10 by 10.
Yeah.
So you got 40 stones in all, 10 on each side of the diamond, so 40 in all. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can put anyone up there you want. Good grade. What's the name of it or something? Something you can bring to the next meeting? For those that are interested, I'm going to have part 2 to Council on Foreign Relations next week. I wanted to look at some literature on the council. You can put that one up there now, baby. And some more details about specifically what they did. I did not get to read the names of the black members in Washington, D.C. I'm going to have to hold it for the next meeting. There was a student that came to me, I don't want to say sent to me, but a sister, she works in the State Department. And she came to me, said that her working on a doctorate or a master's in Howard, and she interns at the State Department, came to me and said she wanted to do a report on the Council on Foreign Relations, and this is her Council on Foreign Relations, the International Establishment, a research paper submitted to Dr. Dave Rule, Department of Political Science, and it mentions the person's name, December of '95. And it has some interesting points in it about the council, and many of these people she knows and worked with, and one man in particular, she was really checking me to see what I knew, and I was telling her deep white stuff that not many people know. I mentioned her about this ball buster named Nicholas Burns over there, who's the new public relations man for the State Department. He put that one on. And she says, oh yeah, he's vicious, do-do-do-do-do. How you know about him? Do-do-do-do-do. Say, well, we know about all of them. But she wrote an interesting report contradicting her professor about the value of the council. And it's these type of things we want to instigate. We want to instigate the young to go up and wrestle with them elders about the truth of these things. Because the truth, if ever the truth became the issue, things would come more to our side as long as sidebar things and what's relevant, loyalty and other things, then it'll never happen. I'm going to stop here. I appreciate you all coming. It's 11. I've been going since 8. And I appreciate you coming around. I appreciate you all coming. Next Tuesday night, I'm going to do part 2 to the council and maybe start up the trilateralism. Hey, how's Tuesday, Gary? Okay. Next Tuesday night, back here at the cafe. For those that are interested, Grassroots 2000 meeting tomorrow, 1212 New York Avenue, Suite 1212. That's on New York, Suite 1212, 1212 New York Avenue, Suite 1212. And that'll probably be the last meeting there because after that it'll be so many people at the meeting that won't hold it. Anybody else got any questions?
OJ speak.
Oh, OJ, quick. Ooh, shit, yeah, man. It ain't that hard. White people misread what black people want to hear OJ from, what they want to hear from OJ. White people think that black people want to know if OJ was guilty or not. No. What do we all want to know? We want to know if OJ was black. Right. OJ, is you a bruh man? Is you a bruh man? And the key piece, OJ said, man, I'm laying low, man. I mean, I only played golf twice. I'm laying real low. I mean, man, I'm laying so low. I mean, what do you want me to do? Go to Africa? And Ed Gordon, the epitome, and I appreciate the brother this time because he scares me other times. He comes right on. He said, now you got a point there, Mr. Jackson. That's true. Let's talk about that. You brought this up. That's what some black people, huh? Simple Jackson. You know, it's in that. Well, both of them Americans. And one day, my sister and I were talking, she said, one day about OJ, you know, he is a fucking American. He's an American. He looked at me and said, man, I treat all y'all right. I'm American. I treat y'all good, treat me good. Remember me in Naked Gun 333 getting knocked all around like a fucking dummy and shit. Doing that dummy. Anyway, he says, Ed Gordon says, you know, that's it, OJ. Black people, now they've never accused you of going to Africa. And OJ said, well, I didn't mean to say Africa. But you know, you can see him around all this white guys saying, man, I'm fucking ass back in Africa. Like that's the worst place to get in the world. He's sitting up there at Bel Air trying to repudiate, count how many signs he's seen.
I saw 5.
Yeah, I saw 5 signs. That's all I saw. That's all I saw was, and when I was trying to sell lemonade with my little girl, for that boy, and it was just obvious that he really didn't get it. And when he asked him that question about being black, and he started talking about buying T-shirts for kids without shirts, and he'd give money to the links, and that little shit. He didn't give not one black organization as much as he gave Denise Brown's sister, or Nicole's sister Denise. And Ed could have busted him on that, but that brother man that was on there was the commentator. He was doing some psychological damage to OJ. Not old boy Emerge, man, because I take him as talking shit. George Curry. He tried to play like he real black and OJ is less black. When that he ain't even got the right to raise the question. It's Khalid undermining Farrakhan was his story. But that other brother that was on, Dyson, was the commentator. Yeah, he was talking a bunch of shit on there. Yeah, OJ psychologically poor on the black side. I mean, he was really getting deep in his shit. And I was intrigued by that, but again, whites really missed the point, I can see. And all them days afterwards, you can see they had really missed the point. And a couple points you can see there where OJ really got mad and shit. Yeah. About Old Man Brown and what else?
The white women remarked.
Oh, yeah, I can't help it. I mean, I'm a golfer. I'm not black, I'm a golfer. I mean, if it ain't on the golf course, As if being black was. What he said was, I never let being black be an impediment like it is for everybody else. Boy,
I mean, this fool spent
boy,
18.
look, I told, it was an editorial, I think, in New York Times, the USA Today, and it said, we better hurry up and get this nigga back. He's truly one of us. And that was the perfect point. Truly. He's gonna, what about OJ?
I was saying he spent 18 months in jail. Crackers cut him loose, left and right, and
Everywhere.
and he still up.
What did he say? He want a deal. All he looking for is a deal. Give me a deal. Let me get a deal. Bring me a deal.
And he still up. They tell him every day, forget, nigga, we don't want you.
All of Barbarelli's daddy said it's the best. I don't want my wife with a nigga. And then they had her on the tape, Paula Barbarelli, sitting in the car talking to a black model, talking about, I never hung with no niggas when I was little. She had to come out and repudiate that shit. I saw it right on Current Affairs, one of them. Yes, brother.
What about the President's State of the Union address there that the youth are going around showing each other over designer jackets?
Yeah, that was deep too.
Was that deep?
Trying to bring up some neighborhood shit.
Was that
I was
deep?
intrigued by that.
Bring up that point about the guy who created, y'all heard of the World Wide Web?
The World Wide Web, everybody heard of that? Them World Wide Web experts right
Yeah,
there.
right here. The guy named Tim Berners-Lee, he worked for CERN, the European Laboratory for Particle Physics. He's like credited for creating the World Wide Web. And I just want to let you all know, if you can look at the logo here, it has 666.
Right, you can pass that around, you all can look at that because it's real deep. But then we get it done over here. But that, again, the World Wide Web, I told you, that's at the Defense Department stuff. And become real deep on watching that. Anybody else on OJ? How about the Minister Farrakhan and Mandela? And he standing there, Mandela saying, I taught him on how to be more patient and stuff. And I really wish, I say this, I really wish the minister had first went and met with Winnie Mandela and did the PR with her. But now, check this out. It says in that article, I think some of you all got it, that the main thing that the attack on Mandela was from the white extremists. Now, how you gonna let a hunky to fuck black people all them years, racist bastard, to get up and jack your shit up and have you about whether you gonna meet with a man who you done 100 times worse. And that's why Winnie Mandela's in trouble if that crisis prevention action shit, which we'll get into more in part 2. How many of you all interested in part 2? I ain't gonna do no shit y'all ain't interested in. Y'all just being polite and shit. I know y'all want to hear that. Y'all ain't no boring shit about no white people. But I will do all those black people. I'll read the membership list off the back. Every name on there that I can recognize is black. I'd also like to make a copy of the membership list that's in the back so that everybody has a membership list of the Council on Foreign Relations, a full membership list. I don't know. They meet with Gaddafi. I'm in Wichita. They tell me about a meeting with Gaddafi, and Gaddafi makes this dumb remark about, I'm going to give him money to affect American politics. When any dummy knows that you can't, he did the same shit with Billy Carter. When they was fucking Jimmy Carter, they used Gaddafi to do it. Now they fucking Farrakhan, and he getting it from Gaddafi ass. Because Gaddafi says, so next thing you know, the IRS mails a letter to Farrakhan saying you got to register as an agent of a foreign government, because then, too, you can't even take no money from a foreign government and give it to a politician because it's fucking illegal. We already know that the political equation is irrelevant anyway. And then there you go, the next day, wham, there they were jamming him on that, and then it's on to Mandela. Now, he also go to Nigeria. Now, interestingly enough, he meets with the Nigerian main man, and I know U.S. government would have liked to talk to him. So I'd be interested to see if there's any State Department activity involved in this, in the debriefing process. Yes.
Real quick, I heard on the radio today, NPR, they're talking about, they're trying to jam the Nigerian government about, I think you have some people talking about they're trying to jam Shell Oil for helping them out.
Right, that's the only oil company they want to mention over there. When Rockefeller and all them is over there big, they want to put it all on Shell Oil, which is what they did in apartheid. Since Rockefeller controlled Randall Robinson out there to do the Shell, y'all saw stop apartheid with the Shell sign on it. No Exxon. Right, no Exxon, no more mill.
They still use them for
Mobile was the biggest thing in South Africa. Huh? Rockefeller don't, right? That's why he had Randall Robinson and them put Rockefeller out there. Put Shell out there. Right, kill the competition. Competition is a sin. That's the Rockefeller line. Competition is a sin. Huh? What was that? Can I say something? Anything else?
12 monkeys.
Whoa, 12 monkeys. Hey. What was in that?
Barcode.
Barcode?
Yeah, I know that.
Bruce Willis right here. What about, was there, let's see, there was Rich, there was Crazy People, there was Time Travel, what else?
A virus.
Huh? A virus, there you go.
Can I?
Go ahead, Jabari.
I was looking at HBO, right? And they were showing previews of new movies that's coming out. And they showed us repeatedly when Dustin Hoffman saying, "Oh, it's airborne." They was just constantly just keep showing it all through the day.
What was that?
With Dustin Hoffman saying that the virus was airborne. Oh my God.
Right, oh, it's airborne, right, because they're getting ready to show Outbreak on HBO. Yeah, I've seen the promos for that. With a whole series of the movies. How about the Emerge story? You all seen the Emerge story on the minister? It's got some real interesting negative stuff in it. Oh, no, you gotta stop. That's it. Stop. I don't want to go no further. Can't go no further than 2. All right, that's the end of that tape. I'm going to stop right there. I ain't even going into no third tape. I can say this for the next one, but this has got some shit in it. That's the latest one? Yeah, it's the latest one. And it's got a whole issue in the Million Man March, but no discussion with Farrakhan. I thought that was it. Still at least been an interview with him in here.
Source. The Ringer article in the Source magazine.
No, I didn't see it. Source got a magazine, the story on Karinga. I didn't see it. You all see that Karinga in the Washington Post story. He found it Kwanzaa, but he still remains a puzzle. That's in that slow burn case because Karinga, Farrakhan, all of them who catapulted themselves to the white man end up getting exterminated because they call themselves the one and only one. Anytime you be the one and only one with the white man, you be dead and only dead. That's why I'm not the only researcher. I'm so glad there's Eric Muhammad, the Black Holocaust Council. And, let's see, Brother Bruce, your book ready? Oh, here you go. How long you make that book? Here's Anton LaVey with that, symbol on him, that gold of Mendes on his neck. Now remember, Anton LaVey had one of his people was Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski raped a 14-year-old girl, had to flee the country. The 14-year-old girl's daddy was one of Anton LaVey's main men. I think it's Michael Kinski. And then Tasha, what's her name? She married Quincy Jones. Yeah, the girl, she is the 14-year-old girl that Polanski raped, is the one that Quincy just married. Natasha Kinski. And what did she do? Her father was in the witchcraft. She plays in the movie Cat People. But she turns into a panther, and in the end takes Roddy McDowell's place as the little gatekeeper of evil with that little spot there with that zone. You gotta go back and watch that flick, Cat People. Old flick. Real deep. But that witchcraft and all that stuff, that's some deep stuff. Brother Hansel and I gonna give a lecture soon at a place on 9th and P. Some jazz club, some new jazz club, the old jazz club or something. Oh man, y'all hear about them 3 girls who shot their head out there on the highway? Then somebody comes and drives over them and stuff. These stuff going on.
Khalid,